So, when you hear the letters KGB, what comes to mind? Probably trench coats, right? Shadowy meetings on misty bridges during the Cold War. But that's really just the Hollywood version. The real story, the one we're going to dig into, is about power, it's about control, and it's about a system that is very much still shaping our world today. Let's peel back those layers.
And this quote, man, it hits the nail on the head. That pop culture image we all have in our heads, it often gets in the way of seeing the reality. We've got to look past the myths of spies and dark alleys to really understand what's been going on.
And this is the core idea, the one thing you really got to get. The KGB wasn't just another intelligence agency. No, it was the engine of state power, a system built from the ground up for total control, a system that's been evolving for well over a century.
Okay, so to really understand this system, we have to jump in the time machine and go way, way back to the very beginning. Section 1, where it was all forged, right in the fire and chaos of the 1917 Russian Revolution.
Just look at this timeline. It shows an evolution that is breathtakingly fast, and not in a good way. In just 5 years, we go from a small secret police force to a full-blown instrument of mass terror. This wasn't some gradual process. It was a deliberate, absolutely brutal consolidation of power, and it laid the foundation for everything that came next. And this right here? This is the absolute key. From day one, the Cheka combined hunting for foreign spies with hunting for political enemies at home. A spy from another country and a poet writing the wrong kind of poem, they were seen as the exact same kind of threat to the state. This mindset, that the enemy is both outside and inside, that is the core DNA of this entire system. And the Red Terror is a chilling example of how that DNA was put into practice. This wasn't just random violence. It was a systematic psychological operation. The goal wasn't simply to punish enemies. The goal was to create a society-wide culture of fear so deep that nobody would even think about opposing the regime.
So from this brutal foundation, the system evolved into the organization that would pretty much define the entire Cold War. Welcome to Section 2, the KGB's Sword and Shield, where they perfected this whole apparatus of power.
The best way to understand the KGB's mission is through its own powerful metaphor, the sword and the shield. The shield was turned inward, a huge machine of surveillance and repression designed to protect the regime from its own people. The sword, on the other hand, was pointed outward, a global weapon for spying, for spreading disinformation, and for projecting Soviet power all around the world.
And listen, this wasn't just some cool catchphrase. It was a real, highly structured bureaucracy. The first directorate, that was the legendary sword, running spies all over the globe. But back home, the shield was just as powerful, maybe even more so. You had the second and fifth directorates working together to crush any tiny hint of dissent. It was a finely tuned machine of total control. But then in 1991, the unthinkable happened. The Berlin Wall was already down, and the Soviet Union itself just collapsed. So in Section 3, we're going to look at what happened to this immense apparatus of power when the state it was built to serve just vanished. Which leads to a really important question. The Cold War was over. The Soviet Union was gone. So that means this massive KGB machine just disappeared, right? Game over?
Wrong. It didn't vanish. The system didn't die. It just shed its skin. It mutated.
And this is what that mutation looks like. The KGB was officially broken up, sure, but its functions were just handed over to new agencies. The FSB became the new shield for domestic control. The SVR became the new sword for foreign intelligence. And they were joined by the GRU, a powerful military intelligence agency that had always been a bit separate. So the names changed, but that core system of control, it absolutely endured.
So let's fast forward. How is this system, born over 100 years ago, playing out right now in the 21st century? Section 4, the modern shadow war. An old game being played with some terrifyingly new tools.
Seriously, if you take one thing away from all of this, let it be this. The tools have completely changed, but the doctrine, the fundamental playbook, has not. The rules for control and political warfare that were written back in 1917 are still being used today, just with the weapons of the digital age.
To really get this, you need to know this old Soviet-era term, active measures. Now, this wasn't just about spying. This was the KGB's doctrine for actively shaping reality itself, using disinformation,
forgeries and propaganda to sow chaos and manipulate world events to their own advantage.
So what does that old active measures playbook look like today in our world? Well, it looks like what we call hybrid warfare. It's cyber attacks that can cripple infrastructure. It's social media campaigns designed to tear societies apart. It's the constant, nonstop drip of disinformation designed to confuse us, to divide us. It is the same old game, just played on a global digital battlefield.
And that brings us to a pretty chilling final thought. We live in an age where information isn't just information, it's a weapon. And our own minds have become the battlefield, a system of control that was forged in a revolution a century ago, now has the digital tools to reach directly into our homes, into our phones, into our heads. So the real question isn't just about what they'll do next. It's about how we, living in this new reality, can possibly tell the difference between truth and fiction. The shadow war isn't happening in some far-off alley anymore. It's happening everywhere.